Welcome to the Now, I'm Ashley Jenkins, and happy Election Day, Americans! Hopefully you voted as long as you're over 18. And hopefully this won't be our last roundup ever because there won't be an apocalypse when the polls close. Yesterday was N7 Day, but we've got even more news today about Mass Effect Andromeda. The digital version of next month's Game Informer has hit inboxes with a ton of gameplay details, which have thankfully been cross-posted to NeoGAF. The post has some additional story details about Andromeda, like the fact that the Hyperion has been separated from the rest of the fleet of Arcs, plus some pretty literal game changers to how Andromeda will play. Apparently, cover will now be dynamic instead of sticky, plus there are no more classes. Instead, players will be able to mix and match character abilities and specialties as they see fit. As for combat, it's been overhauled as well, doing away with global cooldown timers in favor of individual timers when you use your powers. Powers are now assigned to hotkeys rather than having to pause and bring up a radio menu every time you want to biotic someone to death. And considering how little we know about the game, this Game Informer story is basically a godsend. So we'll have to see how much more BioWare shows off at the Game Awards show in December, where we're expecting the first real gameplay. PS4 Pro comes out in just 2 days, assuming we survive the apocalypse today, but Scorpio's got some potential new details thanks to an alleged source within Microsoft. According to an exclusive report from Windows Central, Scorpio will be able to natively run 4K Universal Windows Platform PC and Xbox One games. So if you already checked out Gears of War 4 or Forza Horizon 3, or if you're the guy who checked out ReCore on a crazy PC at max settings in 4K, you might have had a glimpse at what the games will also look like on Scorpio. The report also claims that Scorpio itself is serving as the new game dev kits for all Windows games, powering all of Microsoft's future gaming efforts. No surprise that this might be the case, as it's what Microsoft has been hinting at kind of all along when it comes to unifying PC and Xbox One. Still, this should probably be considered a rumor until Microsoft, at some point, decides to actually tell us more about Scorpio. Don't be like Nintendo. We'll just find out everything anyway. We've got loads of news from this weekend out of BlizzCon as well. Blizzard's annual convention didn't have quite some of the surprises the fans were hoping for, but still got their fair share of cool announcements. While the company sadly did not unveil a Diablo 4 like everyone hoped, they did announce the upcoming Necromancer class for Diablo 3, plus the fact that all of Diablo 1 will be making its way to Diablo 3 in an upcoming 20th anniversary patch. The Darkening of Tristan will feature 16 dungeons and the 4 main bosses of the first game, and will be free for all Reaper of Souls owners on PC and console. So free's good, at least. The other biggest piece of news from the weekend comes from Overwatch, where the ARG gone bad character Sombra was finally mercifully introduced after months of teasing. Sombra can hack characters' abilities, disrupting them for a few seconds. She can also see enemies at low health through walls and has a teleportation grenade. Sombra is already live on Blizzard's test servers, so we should probably expect her to be public relatively soon. You know, if they don't decide to screw with everyone some more and do another ARG that nobody wants. Maybe next time Blizzard just will not do that and not unveil their characters via never-ending ARGs, because they even acknowledge that they're not good at it. Niantic wants you back. Speaking of people that sometimes aren't good at things, like talking. Pokemon Go introduced a major update yesterday, adding daily quests to the app to try to keep you coming back for more. However, if you thought you'd had your fix of catching them all, data miners have also found some hidden code indicating that a lot more Pokemon are coming in a future update. According to the data dump over at the Sylph Road, Pokemon Go is preparing for a new batch of 100 Generation 2 Pokemon from 152 to 251. Data miners also found even more references to Ditto, who, despite being coded into the game already, has yet to make an actual appearance so far. When you add all this to the recent influx of returning players from the Halloween event, we might actually be looking at a Pokemon Go comeback. We'll just have to wait and see how the game continues to evolve. Hopefully it'll evolve some fucking tracking. If you were pissed off that you purchased the Windows Store version of Infinite Warfare only to find out that you couldn't play with your friends on Xbox One or Steam, well, you weren't alone, or well, maybe you were. You were very, very alone. It's kind of confusing. Anyway, Microsoft has started issuing refunds for any angry players who were unfortunate enough to actually buy the Windows Store version of Infinite Warfare because there was nobody to play with. According to one Redditor, there was only one other person in the world looking for a deathmatch game in the Windows Store version of Modern Warfare Remastered. As such, they quickly got a refund from Microsoft, who was happy to offer them their money back. After getting a lot of flack about this over the weekend, Microsoft did release a statement indicating that the decision to separate the player base came directly from Activision, so it's a good thing they're still offering refunds even though it was Activision's fault. Kinda sucks. That makes their whole storefront look bad. Still, you have to hope they don't take any more raw deals like this for the Windows Store in the future. Doctor Strange had a big weekend at the box office, and a well-deserved one, which should surprise almost nobody anymore, since Marvel keeps turning kind of questionable ideas for superhero movies into really awesome movies. The Sorcerer Supreme opened to $85 million domestically, giving him a bigger weekend premiere than Ant-Man, and just shy of Thor: The Dark World. In total, Strange has brought in $325 million globally, thanks to an additional $240 million coming in overseas. Cumberbatch's magical Tony Stark impression was no doubt helped by the early positive reviews the movie received, and seems to set things up very well for Phase 3 of the MCU. If the first-timer Doctor Strange can have an opening like this, looks pretty promising for Ant-Man and the Wasp and Black Panther to have even bigger debuts, considering fans are already familiar with their ass-kicking. Oh, and if you haven't seen it yet, remember there are 2 button scenes, so you want to make sure you see them both. In sadder news, one of the original animal heroes of the internet has passed away this week. Francis of Cooking with Dog on YouTube, a show with over 1 million subscribers and 150 million views, died just before his 15th birthday. Chef, the character who appeared alongside Francis, made the announcement on Twitter, saying that Francis lived a full, happy life and that he will be missed. If you want to pay Francis a tribute, you should definitely check out some of his videos. He started cooking all the way back in 2009. Or, you know what? Just eat something delicious. Treat yourself. MOBAs were all the rage in the video game industry, and now it seems like we're moving on to hostile takeovers being the new genre of choice, because in addition to Ubisoft, another developer may be facing one of its own, CD Projekt. The developers behind The Witcher and the owners of GOG have called an emergency shareholder meeting for later this month, voting on a number of special items that will limit the power of majority stakeholders, plus whether or not the company can buy back some of its own shares. This has led to some speculation that CD Projekt may be battling a hostile takeover. However, it could also mean that they're protecting themselves from any potential future Vivendi Ubisoft situations. Speaking of that possible takeover attempt, it looks like Vivendi has upped its shares of Ubisoft once again, following Ubisoft's positive earnings call from last week. Vivendi has now increased its ownership of the company to 24% of the shares and 21% of the voting power in upcoming meetings. So far, Vivendi has denied that it actually wants to take over the company, but once they hit 30%, they have to make a bid on Ubisoft according to French law. Maybe next time Ubisoft should try to have a few crappy quarters and then Vivendi will back off. That's the ticket. Well, that just about does it for our roundup of everything you might have missed from the weekend and early this week, but there is still one more really cool announcement from the Rooster Teeth family. Our friends over at Screw Attack have just released their newest game, Super Rad Ray Gun. Super Rad Ray Gun is a 2D retro shooter in the vein of Mega Man, starring an 80s mobile gaming device named Rad. It 100% celebrates the 80s, boasting ultra-sharp 144p resolution graphics, which is really gonna make your system work for it, and unique shades of monochrome off-green. You can pick it up today on Steam for PC, Mac, Linux, for $10, and we'll leave a link to it in the description, or in the link dump. What do you guys think of all the stories in this roundup? Let us know in the comments, and for more news from every corner of the internet, like this video and subscribe to The Know. Hey, just a reminder for those of you who prefer to watch all the news on your console or on your TV in general, there is a Rooster Teeth First app that's now available for Xbox One and for Apple TV, and it has all of the news content.